Also histograms and frequency polygons. So we have to remember that these two are used for numerical data. So don't forget this. It's only for numerical data. We don't use it for categorical data, okay? This is very important because one of the differences between an histogram and a bar chart is that in histograms, the columns are close together. There are no gaps. Remember that in bar graphs, we said that there had to be a distance and the distance had to be the same. What we have here before, those distance have to be the same in bar graphs. And this is for categorical data. Remember that bar graphs are for categories. Like here I have baby, toddler, children, or whatever. Histograms are for numerical data. It can be for discrete data, it can be for continuous data, it doesn't matter, but it has to be numerical, okay? And the columns need to be equal width and no gaps. So let's look at the important features of the histogram. First, title. Remember, always very important. So let's look here. It says mass of people joining a weight program loss. So what is the mass of the people joining a weight program props? Good, that's my title. Clearly labeled axis. So we can see here that we have frequency and we have mass in kilograms. So we have mass in kilograms and we have frequency here. Okay, so that's clear labeled axis, okay? Separate axis is scaled evenly. So that's saying that if I'm using, we can see here that they use like grid paper and they have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're using 1 square per unit. The same way on the horizontal axis, we can see that they use 2 squares and each square is representing like 5 units. How do I know? Because it is like 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100, and so on. So that's separate axes scaled evenly. Columns of equal width, we can see here that each column goes from 60 to 70. I don't have one from 60 to 80 and another one from 80 to 90. No, each one is like 10 units apart with no gaps. And this bit of no gaps is very important. That means that we're talking about histograms. Otherwise, we will be talking about bar graphs, okay? A half interval gap at each end of the graph. So you can see here that we have a half interval gap, and here we have another half intergap. Wonderful. So that's what we have here. Now, something that I want to point out here that is very important, girls. You see here that they have like a range here. This bar, so these people that are represented here, that we know that there are 2 people, are from 60 to 70 kilograms, sorry. So their weight was from between 60 and 70 kilograms. Notice that when they're labeling this, when they're labeling the starting point and the end point, they're not labeling something like 60 to 70. They're not doing that. That will be wrong, okay? They put the start point, end point, start point, end point, start point, end point, and so on, okay? This is very important when you're doing histograms. The other way that you can do it is if you're not going to label the start point and the end point, then the other thing that you can do, let me bring this photo here, is to label the midpoint. So you see here how in this point, in this histogram, they have here a 7.5. So I know that this one starts at 7 and finishes at 8 because they're labeling the midpoint and saying that the midpoint is 7.5. Okay, and here the middle point is 12.5 and 17.5, 22.5 and 27.5. Okay, so we can see that these are 5 points apart. So I take this away. It's not 7 and 8 because there are 5 points apart between this 7.5 and this 12.5. And so we can see here that they're labeling only the midpoints, okay? Wonderful. So we can see here that we also have a title and the labels are labeled perfectly, like we can see the axis label perfectly here. Wonderful. What else I was going to show you? Yes. So with histograms, when we are labeling the middle point, like in here, we can go and we can put a point at the top of each one of those graphs. And when we connect those lines, this is what we call a frequency polygon. So with this frequency polygon, if you can see that starts in 0, they take it from 0 and they go here to 1 to the next and the higher point, and they connect this. That's what is called a frequency polygon. The graph is like a function that they put there on top of this. And it's only to do it like to see very in a snapshot, like what is happening, where is the highest. I can see that here is the highest point, and then it goes low, and then it goes up again. Wonderful. I remember what I was going to show you just before. So if I wanted to find here what is my midpoint, if I wasn't going to use this one, I could say, okay, I'm going to use here 65 instead of labeling these ones. And here I can label 75, and here 85. And if I wanted to do a frequency polygon, what I can do is point here, 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 and then with a ruler I can, and this one will go down here. So with a ruler, then I can go and connect these ones with a ruler to show that graph. I'm not using a ruler here, but if you were going to use it, you will have to do it like this. Wonderful. And the same thing I can do here to create that frequency polygon. And it goes from 0 to 0. It goes up, down, up, down, down, down. Wonderful, girls. Okay. Wonderful. I think that's all I wanted to show you just now. I think maybe the only thing that we need to work is what will be, like if we didn't want it to use here, this middle point, what will be this one? I said 7 and 8 because I thought that if this was in the middle, that is 7.5. But then I realized that between 7.5 and 12.5, there are 5 points of difference. And here between 12 and 17, there are other 5 points of difference. So what will be that midpoint? How can we find out? We have to think about how we can find it out. So if between these two is 5, then if I add 2.5 to this one, that will be 2.5, that will be 5 to 8. This one will be 10. Yes. And if I add another 2.5, then this one will be 15. And that's correct. If that's correct, then that means that this one is 5. So it's 5 and 10, 10 and 15, 15 and 20, 20 and 25, 25 and 30. And but they're using this one by putting the midpoint here, that the midpoint, you can see that is the average, is the midpoint between these two. And that's 7.5. So that works. That's perfect. Yes, it does work. Wonderful, girls. Now in the next video, I'll do some examples about this.